Do you see that in many people's eyes?
I do. I see it in a lot of people. I think there's something that God put in all of us, and that's to overcome, to move forward.
Jesus Christ, you can trust him. He'll never fail.
We've seen midgets grow. We've seen arms and legs that stop growing. Mandada basata. I don't make this stuff up.
So are we going to be called away to meet the Lord? But it's not going to be 300 years. We live in right at the coming of Jesus Christ.
You're just a 10-foot tall crybaby.
I'm crying.
It's not so bad. I mean, no Christians aren't being killed.
No, not yet.
What the Bible says, Leviticus 20:13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with the woman, they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS.
The notion that atheists are somehow the intelligentsia among us and so forth, I think this is just completely false.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Age of Reason podcast. Alex, what's up, dude?
Oh, another day in paradise, man. How you doing?
I'm disappointed. So you got in an argument with somebody on your Central Valley for Bernie Sanders page, some guy that thinks because, you know, he came from the bottom, now he's here, he can just, like, everybody else had the same opportunity he did, and he was going to come on here and tell us what millions and millions of people are doing wrong, because apparently he had the answers. But it's fucking game time. Where the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I guess he chickened out, man. I was pretty excited too. I thought, we'd finally get somebody to kind of go up against, but yeah, the guy, he chickened out.
That's some bullshit. Hopefully we can make him change his mind and make him stick to it. But
yeah, we had some scheduling difficulties last week, so we didn't get to record. But he posted a meme based on something Bernie said in the previous debate, where white people don't know what it's like to be poor, which is it's cut from the quote, right? It's not the exact quote. He went on.
That is what he said. I mean, even if you hear the whole quote, that is what he said.
But I think, see, this isn't me and the guy were arguing. I think where he said after poor, I think it's a comma, and then it's a continuation of the sentence where he says, you don't know what it's like to be poor, comma, to be harassed by the police, and something else. So I think he was saying, like, not just you don't know what it's like to be poor, but you don't know what it's like to be poor, harassed by the police, and the one condition, saying it's a combination of the three things that's really what's bad.
Yeah, but I mean, all right, look, I hope that's what he meant, but there shouldn't have been a comma there. It should have been the word "and." It should have been in there, because I'm white. We didn't grow up, with everything and all that shit. And yeah, I was, white people are kind of outnumbered there in Modesto, and most of my friends were Hispanic, so I was kind of the white sheep, I guess would be the way to put it. So, but if he just would have said the word "and" instead of that comment, or instead of that comma there, then it would have been okay. If he would have said, you don't know what it's like to be poor and, X, Y, and Z while being black, or even in some cases while being Hispanic, then I don't think anybody can argue with that. I can't argue with that if that's what he meant, but I haven't heard him actually come out and clarify yet.
Yeah, we talked offline last week after, and like I said, I was a little not disappointed, but I just felt like it was definitely a poor choice of words.
Sure.
But I think so far the only kind of feedback I've seen was from Killer Mike, kind of talking to black constituents basically, and saying, I guess some of them were offended by when he said ghetto. You know what it's like to live in the ghetto.
His grandparents were Jewish and killed in the Holocaust. That's where, a ghetto was being thrown around then before where it is now.
Yeah, I know, but that's a different type of ghetto, I think.
No, of course it is, but that word came from that.
Yeah.
You know what? Call it what the fuck it is. It is a ghetto. We have ghettos, and there are certain. Okay, this may be one of those PC things. I think that's stupid, honestly. But what I did hear the complaint that I did hear from from blacks regarding what Bernie said was that he was implying that all blacks are poor and they don't know what it's like to be successful. That was the one that I heard, and I think that's a major, like that's grabbing
That's
for
a stretch.
straws.
Yeah,
That's a huge stretch. Don't forget who this guy is fighting for. He's fighting for the poor, like, you know, and it's a debate. It's getting heated right now. People say things and they don't come off perfectly. And look at Hillary Clinton. She meant to say what she said at Nancy Reagan's funeral. You know, they started a national conversation about AIDS. What? No, they did not. But I'm hearing some stuff about Hillary Clinton, but I don't think she's getting the scrutiny that Sanders is for the comment that he made. I don't think she's getting the same level. It is everywhere, but nobody's really hating her for it that I've seen.
Yeah, honestly, I think I hate to use the word offensive, but I think I could honestly see how people could be offended a little bit by what Bernie.
I agree. What
Bernie said. So, you know, to me, I kind of take that as a strike. It's honestly one of the only things that I've heard him say that I can't, you know, fully support and get behind. I understand, I think, what he was trying to say.
Right.
But, you know, so that's how the whole thing started. So we, you know, me and this guy went back and forth. He posted the meme. And the thing is, he posted the meme and the top quote said, "White people is the race most dependent on welfare in this country," or something like that. And Bernie never said that.
No.
So that's what I told him. Like, hey, you know, the top part is not true. The bottom part, yeah, he said out of context, but yeah, he said that. So we were kind of going back and forth, and he eventually came to the, you know, kind of the typical hardworking Republican stance where, well, I was born in Stockton, our neighboring city over here in Modesto,
and a terrible, tough city.
It's a little bit worse. They're sister cities, and Stockton's just a little bit below, so or a little bit higher on the worst places to live ranking. But you know, so I'll give him that, and I don't know his story. Today was supposed to be his chance to come on and share it with us, but it was a typical story of somebody who worked hard. Like I said, I don't know. I'm sure he did, but he just believes that because he came out of the ghetto or transformed his life, whatever the case, and he was a white person. He said that he doesn't see why anybody, you know, else can't, which of course is the typical thing. All you need is a little hard work and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you know, you'll be just fine.
Well, and this is the part about that. And before I get into this, I just want to give a disclaimer here. At no point with what I'm about to say, it may sound like this is what I'm saying, but at no point is my intention to say that hard work doesn't pay off and isn't a big factor in being a professional success when it comes to money and, you know, stuff like that. So with that being said, hard work, the only thing that I would say is as important, if not in some cases more important, and this is just from my perspective on my life and things that I've seen, who you know means in some cases more than the hard work you put in. And I can say that because I'm one of those people. And it's not to say that, you know, I started at $8 an hour for the company that I still work for, and I make a lot more than $8 an hour now. And that came with, you know, sacrificing time with my family, doing things that I would rather have been doing, you know, working late, going to work early, traveling. I've worked all over the West Coast now at this point. But all that hard work wouldn't have done anything if I didn't somehow get the right people in the right positions to care about me. And Obama got a bunch of shit for this a few years ago when he said, you know, you started a great company, a profitable company. You didn't get there on your own. And a lot of people give him a bunch of shit, but it really resonated with me because that is exactly what the case is. You can be one of those hard workers, but if you're not the person that people like to be around or that take an interest in, you're fucking going nowhere. And that's the truth of it. And the part that I have an issue with what this guy was saying, or anybody that says that, is, well, this is just the world's biggest kept secret. All you need to do is work hard, and that guarantees success. You know, interesting fact here. 70% of people on welfare at least have a part-time job. And that's after the economic crash where full-time jobs are hard to come by. Believe me, because if I had a fucking opportunity to take a full-time job of what I'm making right now, I'd be out the motherfucking door. I'd be gone doing something else other than what I'm doing right now and putting up with the bullshit that I got to put up with. But,
yeah, I mean, just when you look at, you know, just an example, right, is, you know, and not all of these are the hardest working people, but just the maids at a hotel room or something, you know, something like that. You think about how many rooms they got to clean, you know, what they got to do or whatever. Their job is not easy. No matter how hard they work, you know, they're not going to get rich, you know, making beds and folding sheets. It's just people need to do all those jobs. And there's, you know, there might be some lazy maids, but I'm sure most of them are hardworking.
Right.
You know, they need to get the job done. If not, they're cheap labor. They'll be replaced by somebody else. So
exactly.
So that's why, you know, it's not fair to say, oh, I just worked harder than this, you know, 60-year-old lady who's been making hotel beds for the last 45 years. You just can't, you know, it's kind of blows my mind when people say like, all you got to do is just, you know, work harder and then things will come to you. It's just not that simple. And, you know, I think it starts with, your options growing up, you know, how many things are available to you? Was college available to you? You know, were you able to, did you have to start working at 16, 17? All these different things, you know, change people's lives dramatically. And not to say that people that couldn't go to college right away because they had to work, they've never been able to, you know, save up enough to go to college. It happens, right? There's success stories, and those people should be praised for their success. Yeah, don't get me wrong. You know, if you got there, you know, on your own hard work or whatever, you beat odds. Yeah, you know, people should say,
you should
hey,
be proud of that. And there's nothing
exactly.
But where the problem comes in is when you look at everybody else. And like I said, this must be the world's best kept secret, because when they talk about working hard, you talking about getting your hands dirty and doing, you know, back-breaking work and all that other shit. You know, you brought up hotel maids and shit. So we're talking about, you know, the housekeeping industry. Nobody fucking works harder than these people. Nobody. And a lot of them are old. And you see, you know, 50-year-old women or men. I saw on one of the places that I work, we have a housekeeping staff, and one of the guys on there is like 68 years old, still working. And this guy's bending over, fucking scraping gum off the sidewalk. Now, I don't give a fuck if that's an 18-year-old doing that. But our 68-year-old people shouldn't be doing that unless for some reason they have it in them and they just want to go scrape gum off the fucking sidewalk. But when you look at the whole picture, it's either a few people are to blame or millions and millions of people are to blame. Which one is it? And you can't tell me that, you know, it's the millions and millions of people and then also say that America is a great country. Because if that's true, America is just filled with lazy fucks who have no ambition, no drive, no work ethic, and don't give a fuck about anything. That's what you have to be able to sell me on in order to get me to agree with your fucking argument. And that's not something I'm ever going to get sold on. But speaking of the workplace, I have a question for you. So I'm having an internal dilemma here, and I thought about this over the weekend. So in my career, I hate being micromanaged. I hate it. You hired me to do a job. Let me do my fucking job. Get out of my way. I hate bosses like that. Bosses that need to be included in every fucking thing you're doing. They want to make the decision for you or any of that shit. I can't stand it. And I find that, you know, I've had a situation like that currently, and I had a situation like that 6 years ago. And what I found was that I stressed more about that relationship with my boss than I did actually doing the job. Doing the job was always easy, but it was all this unneeded stress and unwanted attention and all the scrutiny and microscope shit that just got on my nerves. So I will honestly say that if you don't micromanage your people, which I don't do to my employees, you get better work. You're more efficient, your people are happier, that sort of thing. But when it comes to the federal government versus state law, I'm the complete opposite. I think the federal government needs to be bigger in some cases, especially when we're talking about the EPA and education and, those sorts of things. A lot of the stuff that Bernie is going for and, liberal ideals bring on big government. I'm completely for it there, but I'm completely against it in the workplace. And these are two kind of comparable areas in a way. What are your thoughts on this? Because I haven't had enough time to actually think about it.
I think it's a little bit apples to oranges. I think
a little,
right?
but not really, right?
I guess you can make the tie. I am in charge of people at work as well, and I personally, I have a little bit more of a kickback approach. I talk to my people. To me, I spend more time, I guess, like trying to not make them happy, right? Because it's not just like I bend over, but I think, you got to understand that leadership basically is, the little meme where it's like you have a boss who's pointing something or a leader who's, going and doing it with the people. And
right.
I try, to be more of a leader where when people see, their boss or whatever the case going out there and working hard, they are more likely to say, hey, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to do my part. Rather than if I say like, hey, man, I really need you to do this, get on that. I know personally at some point you're going to be like, hey, fuck you, man. At some point when the micromanaging gets so big, it's like, I know my job, you don't got to tell me to push the fucking button. I know I got to push the button. I do it 500 times every day, so yeah, I as far as government, I think it's a little bit more. It's a little more complicated just because, and I agree with you. We do need more oversight. We do need, especially, into those groups that, every Republican has no problem saying they want to cut. The two that you mentioned, the EPA, Department of Education, if you listen to these guys, all of them since the stupid governor, they've all wanted to cut them, right? When you listen to them, the EPA is like, what the hell do we have it for? It's like we need to cut that right away. We have it for people like
Governor Schneider. That's who we have it for.
Oh, yeah. No. Exactly. And, the EPA has done a lot of, good and continues to do good. But you have states that continue to whittle down, their states' rights and say, hey, we can be in charge of this. Don't worry. You don't need to check the water over here. We got it. I agree with you that needs to get bigger, but the comparison I think is it's interesting. I just don't know if I would say that they're even.
Yeah, and of course they're not even. Of course it's more of a complicated analogy. What I find though is that I sound like a Republican talking about the federal government when I'm talking about the corporate office who has. If they have 100 locations nationwide and you have one corporate office and they're trying to make everybody uniform and it's like every place is a little bit different and stuff like that. These are the exact same words that come out of Cruz and Rubio and even Romney during his campaign, get government out of the way. I think that was from, Rand Paul. It's just something that I noticed and something that I picked up on is that I sound like a Republican talking about the federal government when I'm talking about corporate offices, trying to impose how they want things done at a certain place or across the board. And it was something that I thought of, and it is different. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to think about it, but I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm like, I totally sound opposite when it comes to the other issue.
That's an interesting little comparison. On a little quick side note, we'll get a little bit of religion in here. I don't know if you've read the story, but
who is this? Missouri?
Devout Christian has buttocks mauled by lions after charging at big cats to prove God's power over mammals.
That's funny.
This is the genius that we're dealing with here. This guy, he calls himself a prophet.
Of course he does.
He was at the safari on the Kruger National Park in South Africa. The lions were feeding, right? So it's not like you just randomly go up to a bunch of lions. They were actually fucking eating over there. And you know what I mean? Most people don't even disturb their dog you tell your kids when the dog's eating, leave it alone. But this fucking guy decided, God had protected him, so he charged towards the lions, and sure enough, they mauled him and bit him in the ass. So luckily, he survived. He's got staples in his ass, but I mean,
he's not a dentist, is he? Like they're just sitting over there and fucking Jimmy the Lion's like, this one's for Cecil. Let's go get this motherfucker.
Oh man. Between people like this, the snake handlers, it's
So hold on, because I was laughing. I just want to make sure I got this correct. This guy, his idea to show his faith was there an end game in mind, or was he just like, I'm gonna go socialize with these lions who are enjoying a nice lake zebra right now? Hashtag Lion King. That's what came to mind. But he's like, is he just like, I'm gonna go socialize with these lions who are feeding right now, and then turn around and walk right back just to show God is watching over me?
Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to duplicate the Daniel and the lion story where the lions just don't eat him, or
was he throwing back to that South Park episode with Steve Irwin where he's like, I'm gonna stick my finger up his butthole just to piss him off. Oh God, that's that's so awesome. Mark one down for the Lions. That's cool.
I
thought you were talking about Missouri when you said to throw religion in here. I thought you were the law in Missouri that just got passed where businesses cannot be held liable for refusing service now to gay people for weddings and the whole cupcake deal. They passed it. And here's the problem that I have. When you ask these guys why they don't support gay marriage, number one and number two reason is the Bible, and then it goes to the unnatural side of it. The human race is gonna go extinct and all this other shit. But like number three is, if we open up marriage between men and women, what's going to stop somebody from marrying their dog or their turtle, or somebody should marry this lion. Somebody should marry Jimmy the Lion. What's going to stop all that? What's going to stop bestiality? And as degrading and offensive as that comparison is, they have no problem jumping all the way to that extreme. Yet they don't care about how this it's not even an analogy. I mean, but they have no problem with this law completely promoting discrimination. Like, that's not even a stretch. That's exactly what this is. You're discriminating based on somebody else's life choices.
I think it's important to note that in a lot of states, most predominantly the southern states, it is legal to have sex with an animal.
Farmers got to stay warm in the winter somehow.
So like when you hear these Republicans saying, and to me, honestly, it is, like it's almost disgusting when you hear them, say like, oh, well, if a man can marry another man, then a man can marry a dog. You're basically just saying that this gay person is equivalent to a dog, right? I mean, so that's like, in their mind, that's kind of how they think of it. But yeah, it's
here's okay. So I had a debate with somebody over the past week about gay marriage, and we got onto this conversation because I knew he's a Christian, and I had known already that he was anti-gay marriage, and we were talking one day, and he was telling me about how his childhood was filled with being bullied, basically. And we were talking about it, and he said, if it wasn't for this guy who was all about bullying the bullies, which I thought of you and I, he wouldn't have made it through high school. It was a terrible time throughout his whole childhood and all this shit. And so I was talking to him about it, and I've said this to black people too. How knowing what discrimination feels like, knowing how lonely it is, how powerless you feel, all that shit. How can you still support being anti-gay marriage? And other than, he didn't bring up the bestiality thing, which is good. He's a nice guy, but he didn't bring that up. He brought up the Bible, and I brought up, the linens and the shrimp and shit like that. And then he said, well, what happens when everybody, if enough gay people are openly gay and married, the population is going to stop? Well, two things. One, we have enough people on this fucking planet anyway. But secondly, here's what everybody needs to understand. They say, for anybody that believes being gay is a choice, anybody that thinks this is just a conscious decision that somebody makes, when they say, I don't want to fit in with the general population, I want to be picked on and harassed all the fucking time. I want to have to go to specific bars, because they're separate but equal, all that shit. When somebody obviously consciously makes that decision, I always ask them, have you ever felt like sucking a dick? Oh, no, God, no. Yeah, me neither. You know why? Because I don't have a fucking choice in the matter. Can I choose to suck a dick? Yeah, I could choose to. But I cannot choose to enjoy it. I cannot choose to want man ass. I can't.
Jesus Christ.
Do you follow what I'm saying? And I'm being deliberately kind of blunt about this because I want people to actually think about this. Can you actually force yourself to want that? Because I cannot.
Yeah, tell them, you try it. If it's a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just make the conscious choice to go be gay for a day. I bet you can't do it. And here's the follow-up question that I got this from my dad too. My dad and I finally got my dad to, because my dad grew up homophobic. He grew up in the fucking 60s in Oakland and shit. And I got him to understand what being gay means. But every time I get that far with somebody, their follow-up question is, well, wait a minute, what about bisexuals? Okay, for anybody out there that gets into these arguments, here's the analogy you should use. When you say if being gay or straight is a toggle switch, it's either on or off, let people know that that's not the case. It's more of a volume knob. There's different degrees of that shit. And you could be right dead fucking center. Look it up. Science talks about this shit. You can find this evidence. If I knew it off the top of my head, I would cite these things. I'll post some sources on the page for this.
Yeah. No, the last conversation that I had about it, my friend was saying he was okay because he didn't want to discriminate. He was okay with gay people or lesbian people getting together and having the domestic partnership, but he didn't want the word marriage to be disgraced, basically, and he's a nice guy, by gay, if the same kind of thing, he felt like you could do whatever you want, let them have whatever they want, they should have equal rights, blah, 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 just don't call it what I call my marriage.
Exactly. And, and that's perfectly fine because apparently religion owns marriage. I don't know how this happens, but it's funny because these are the people that don't understand that even if religion was created in the church, which is not true, but even if that was, once it then comes with state rights, it's no longer religious grounds. It's done. Religion is now crossed over into state and things need to change. But I just find it funny because, they'll bring up the population thing too. And it's like, once you are able to wrap your head around the fact that it's not a choice, you'll realize that gay people aren't having kids anyway. It's not doing anything. And with two people get married and whether they call it marriage or not, what the fuck does that mean to you? What the fuck? What do you care? How does that hurt you in any way?
And, going up against the typical Republican who's, anti-abortion, assuming, right, that's the case, which is most of the time.
Right.
Gay couples adopt a lot of children, and a lot of times they're denied, children in a lot of different states because they're gay. That, when people are so anti-abortion, and I tell them, well, what are you going to do with, all these kids? Their simple answer is, oh, they'll just adopt. People will adopt them. Just make them have the kids and put them in an orphanage, and somebody will take them. That's not the case.
That's
right?
faith.
Exactly. It's
You're
faith.
pretending to know what you don't know. That's all faith.
And some people that want these children are being denied just because they're with another
They're
man.
wrecking the family values and
the fabric of
the fabric
marriage.
of the family. Yeah, because divorce isn't through the fucking roof. And because straight couples get it right every damn time. Coming from two people with divorced parents. What the seriously, they act like straight people have treated marriage as sacred as they pretend they have. It's just ridiculous. But let me see. Moving on here. I saw a meme the other day that said, "Hey, black people, remember 620,000 white people died to free you."
Hey, black people. That sounds like when Cliven Bundy said, "Let me tell you something else about the Negro."
Exactly. So that's what this meme said. Now, 620,000 people died in the Civil War, and the reason, and I say that because what's wrong with this figure is they're forgetting that 490,000 people died from the South, and the only reason more Northerners died than Southerners is because guns are a way of life out in the country. These guys were better at shooting. Any historian will tell you that. The North was not as prepared to fight the South, who live, the whole country American lifestyle and are born with a fucking gun in their hand, which is no difference even, 100 and some odd years ago today. That's why more Northerners died than Southerners, but the Northerners still won the war. But they're forgetting, 620,000 white people did die for slavery. But you can also make the argument that this was for fiscal reasons as well. This is for government taxes reasons. This wasn't necessarily, and I'm not speaking for every Northerner, and I'm not speaking for Abraham Lincoln, but slavery wasn't the only reason why the North wanted to end slavery. It wasn't just because they cared about black people. There was also tax issues going on. And as you've mentioned, I think in the past, slavery was the number one reason why the South decided to fight and look to secede from the Union. Slavery was more important. Keeping slavery was more important to the South, it could be argued, than it was abolishing it in the North.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that's an easy point to argue. And I think
it's easy when you're talking to somebody that actually knows something.
And I think, the thing that almost disqualifies that meme, right, is to say when the country, not when it was, well, let's say when it was founded, right? In 1776, after the revolution, everything, we had already tried a different type of government. Then everybody gets together and writes the Constitution, right? The people writing the Constitution were all white men. I mean, there's no denying that, right?
Sure.
That's our founding fathers. So you could say right then that 100% of white men, not 100%, because there were a couple secular people that were fighting to end slavery in the Constitution. But you can say, aside from those couple secular people, you can say that 100% of the white population at one time was okay with slavery. You know what I mean? So like you can say like who started it. It wasn't. I think it almost disqualifies how many people died to end it when you say who started it and who created it. It was, it was the white people, so it's just,
like everybody just in the North just woke up one day and had a change of heart. That's just unbelievable. You can't even argue that. Right. That's the point you're getting to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's just, like if you say, why are we here? Yeah. A lot of white people died to end slavery, but if those white people's ancestors, more white people would have, had a change of heart way back then, slavery never would have taken off, or it would have been, chopped off at the bud much long ago. So it's kind of like nitpicking history to say this many amount of people died, to end slavery. It's just not. It's not accurate.
And I think these people, this is Trump, honestly. That's what this whole thing fucking boils down to. And if the Republicans were doing more than grabbing on penises, GOP, that's what I've dubbed it, hashtag grabbing on penises. Because I said a few weeks ago that that basically this is a dick measuring contest. And then sure enough, it turned into a literal dick measuring contest. I guarantee you there's no problem. Like, you're running for the president. You're running for the president of the United States. What the? Seriously? We're measuring dicks? How does this happen? What the fuck went wrong? I can't even get over some of this shit. And the way he's able to dodge questions at his press conference that he gave, because he's trying to be all presidential now. At the press conference he gave after the last,
After Mitt Romney? Are you
no,
talking
the
about
states. The last election that we had. The last primary.
Yeah, so those are the ones I think after Mitt Romney got him too. That's the one where he brought out his whole table of goods, or not?
Oh no, sorry, the one before that. The one before that, where a reporter stands up and says, "What is your stance on gay marriage?" He immediately cuts the reporter off, says, "Sit down, sit down." I already answered that. I'm not going to do it again. I looked this up. Where is his stance on gay marriage? Because I can't fucking find it.
Well, he's always been pro-gay marriage as a New York,
but not
person
since he started, right?
Well, he's flip-flopped on so many things,
but he hasn't flip-flopped on this,
far.
right? Because he hasn't said anything, because he hasn't found what he's supposed to believe in 2 Corinthians yet.
I'm not sure. I would imagine that he'd have to be against it.
He would have to be.
That's just going off what I know about Republic. I mean, he's winning the evangelical vote somehow, right? There has to be something there. I mean, I know he's already said I'm the #1 candidate on the Second Amendment, even though before he was for gun laws.
Right.
It's hard to figure out who he really is, how he really feels, because right now, either way that I feel is, obviously he's massaging people, trying to get as many people to vote for him as possible.
Right.
He'll say anything.
Well, what I think is funny is, okay, so you brought up the QVC fucking press conference he gave with his wine and his water and steaks and all that shit. And the Daily Show did a great job. Fucking Jordan Klepper tore him up. Like, he either didn't own any of those things, or the only exception to that was Trump Magazine, which is a pamphlet that they give out at Trump hotels. It's not even you can't even subscribe to it. Huh?
It's not even owned by him. They follow the publishing company. It's a separate company. So
the lies.
I mean, that's the stuff that just amazes me. You can get on national TV, and Mitt Romney is the one that I think that said, hey, what happened to Trump Water? What happened to Trump Magazine? What happened to Trump Steak? And this guy just like a kid feels like, oh, somebody insulted my ego. Let me buy this table worth of goods and show them off. The steaks were from a different company. I mean, they had a different company's logo on the steaks.
Right.
It's just like, how do you think people and fuck, people do, right? I mean, obviously people are, rushing to him, but it's just like, how can a thinking person sit back, look at that and think like, oh yes, he is a good businessman after all. Look at his steaks.
Well, I have an idea of that, because I got into an argument with somebody earlier today. He's not a Trump supporter, but what he was saying is that I shouldn't lump all Trump supporters into one group and call them all racist and all this other stuff. And I agree with that. That's fine. I'm not, and that's not what I was trying to do. But when a poll is taken and 20% of your supporters say that ending slavery was a bad idea, it gets hard to defend. It's hard for these people to defend. But what I will say, because this guy's like, "Are you telling me they're all racist?" I said no. But what I will tell you, from my perspective, of anybody that I have spoken to that says they are thinking of or are going to vote for Trump, they immediately say, when I start to press on them about it, they say, look, I don't really do politics. I don't know much about politics. That's what I keep running into, are these people that don't pay attention to politics. And if they did, they would understand that when they say, I love Trump because he says what he thinks and he's not a politician. Number one, just because somebody speaks their fucking mind does not mean the mind is sane. Look at Hitler. First off, look at Hitler and then look at fucking Trump and try to tell me what the difference is. Who's fucking who? Because you can't tell anymore. But we'll get to whole Sieg Heil here in a minute.
I think they both have a micro penis is the problem.
He guaranteed us there was no problem. But number two, when you say that I like him because he's not a politician, let's examine real quick why people don't like politicians. People don't like politicians because they lie. They're car salesmen. You can't trust them. They always try to sell you on one idea while they're fucking you in so many ways and you have no idea how they're doing it. That's why people don't like politicians. And this fuck has done nothing but lie and skate away from policy questions. He has no fucking policy. All he keeps saying is put me in the fucking office and I'll get it done. I'll hire the best fucking people. Why do we need you then? If we're just going to hire the best fucking people, what the fuck do I need you for?
The White House has to say Trump on it.
Well, the funny thing, when we were talking about Hitler, the photos and footage of him making his people raise their right hand and swear to vote for him, not only is that very reminiscent of Adolf Hitler and other dictators, Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il, not is that only not reminiscent of these guys and just a terrible thing to do that nobody should, I mean, that's just fucking stupid. But look at these fucking pictures. It's just, and a lot of people are just Sieg Heiling. Like they get it. The white supremacists that are at his rallies, they know what he's fucking doing. Everybody else, they have a floppy dick arm. They're just willing to raise it up. These guys are like, fuck no, I'll go fully erect and throw my arm penis at Trump. It's just fucking insane. And the worst part about it is there are people that are just embracing this. That video of the guy walking out and telling anti-Trump supporters to go back to fucking Auschwitz. They know what's going on. They get this. And I'm being told don't lump them all in? No, fuck you. At the very least, you are an ignorant person. At least when it comes to politics. And I mean that by you lack knowledge of politics. You lack knowledge of policy if you vote for Trump. And that is the best you can do if you're a Trump supporter, is you're a fucking ostrich who stuck your goddamn head in the sand and you're jumping on a bandwagon because all these fucking racist idiots are going after Donald Trump right now. There's no leadership in that. And I'll end with this. I saw a great meme, and I think Being Liberal posted it. Did you see this? It said, all that talk that you've done about all that talk that you've said that of what you would have done if you were around in the 1960s, now's your chance. Prove it. This is exactly what's happening. This is the 1960s all over again. This is not the time to do the whole ostrich thing. It's not that. This is going to be a key point in American history. There is no doubt about this. We will be talking about this after World War II. The Iraq War is going to lead into this shit, and this is going to be huge.
Well, speaking of Bernie, right? So the biggest thing happened a couple days ago, and we've been saving it till the end here, is the Chicago rally, right? And I haven't heard anybody do it, so I know they're not listening, but I just want to give credit to the students from University of Chicago who got together and said, no, we're not going to let this fucking guy come here and do what he wants on our campus. It was a peaceful, kind of takeover protest kind of thing. To me, I was encouraged to see that you have people standing together and say, you know what, we're not going to put up with this shit. You've seen the people, the man get sucker punched by the 78-year-old veteran.
Piece of shit.
Right. Yeah. You see that. You see the woman.
Oh, and then security tackled him.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. You see the women who Trump's campaign manager pulled down, right? You see, there's that. There's
Choke
all these
slamming of the reporter.
Yeah, you can, if you just, listen, right? Rachel Maddow did a good job of playing clips of things he said.
Yes.
Go ahead, punch him. I'll cover your legal fees. He said that, and for this guy that sucker punched him, he said, "Yeah, I'm looking into it. I'm looking into paying his legal fees." So when he can say that and incite that kind of violence, actually, I just woke up, but I saw that North Carolina is thinking about charging him with inciting violence.
Yeah.
Based on the speech that, or what he said in his speeches. You have to, why is it just now? The things that he's saying, back in the days, we would have carried him out in a stretcher.
Yeah.
He's encouraging people to.
Well, he didn't say back in the days. He said in the good old days.
Oh, the good old days.
Like that was when things were done correctly. And he said something, and I posted that Rachel Maddow video on the page. So everybody, it's 12 minutes long, but it's really worth it. So I encourage everybody to watch that video. She does a great job of pleading this case and making it sink in. But he said something to the extent of, what, we can't beat up protesters anymore? Something to that. There's a part in that video where, and I'm not quoting him, it's a loose quote, but he says, what, we can't treat protesters like this anymore? That's that sort of thing, where like the protesters are the bad guys. And he says, get a job. When one of them is getting hauled out, he's yelling, get a job. So what is that doing? That's putting everything in your followers, the people that follow you, it's putting it in their fucking head that anybody that doesn't have a job, not only are they already under the belief that they brought them on themselves, but they are the parasites of America. And this is exactly what you do, is you blame people. Like he blamed Bernie Sanders and gave him a threat. If you send people to my shit, I'm going to start sending my people to yours.
We were talking about the anti-violence thing a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still for it. But don't get me wrong, I'm going to knock a motherfucker out. If I go to a Bernie rally and, you got some Trump motherfuckers trying to take over. But I saw a meme that it was pretty funny. It said, the Hitler comparison is not complete until he blames a Jew for something. Yep. And, there were some Bernie supporters in the Chicago protest.
Enough to chant his name.
Yeah, and so they were there. The shirts were there, the flags were there. So they were there. But to charge Bernie with it and say, it's at their campaign, and then to threaten him and say, oh yeah, so if you want to do that, I'm going to send my people to your rallies. It's just like, what are we getting into? This is not politics. This
right. Go ahead.
If we want to get down like that, it can get down like that, but that's not the direction that we want to take. We don't want to elevate the conversation to levels of fist fighting. That's just not, where we should be more.
And I wouldn't do that. If I was at a Bernie rally and Trump supporters showed up, I wouldn't do that, because you know what? They're making enough of an ass of themselves without our help. And I would love to watch how Bernie deals with it. I would love to see what Bernie has to say to those guys when they show up, because I guarantee it's going to be very fucking different. And Bernie's reply was, yeah, great, send them so they can see what a real politician looks like or sounds like, one of the two.
Yeah, I just, I think there's a difference, and this is an assumption for me, and I could be way off, right? But when you had those people in there was some pushing, there was some,
sure, yeah. We've already said we're not violent, but we're not turning the other fucking cheek.
Yeah.
There's a difference there, but you're touching on a greater point here for me, which is, what is happening right now? Like, okay, I feel like a few things need to happen. First off, we need to start a petition or a movement for a few things, and the very first thing that needs to get done is we need to get fucking Jon Stewart on TV and just talk for 30 minutes and let us know that everything's going to be all right, even if he's lying to us. I don't care. I just really want to hear what Jon Stewart has to say. But most importantly, I don't know what's happening. These are things that what Trump is standing for are things that we teach our children that are wrong. We're not following the morals of a fucking 4-year-old. Sharing. You know, Bernie's message. I mean, and even taking out the way, you know, the politics of, you know, trickle down and all that other shit on the right. Even when you take that away, so take the sharing out of it. We teach our children to be nonviolent. We teach our children that fighting is not the answer. And that you should use your words and reconcile things peacefully and verbally and stuff like that. We have completely sacrificed our jobs as parents for this fucking 4-year-old. And he throws tantrums like a goddamn child. And just dodges policy questions. And, you know, I posted Marco Rubio, a 10-minute interview that he did on the page, because we said that we could find decency in Marco Rubio if we spent 2 hours with him. I think we found that shred of decency in that video, because he nailed Donald Trump, and he almost said that he would rather have Hillary Clinton in office. It was on the tip of his fucking tongue. He stopped what he was saying and kind of rephrased a little bit, but I just don't understand what this is coming to. This is such a low point since the civil rights movement, I think, for this country. This is fucking terrible. And I think two things that need to start happening is, one, the way we do campaigning needs to stop. And I'm not just talking about Citizens United. I mean, of course, that's a big fucking change that needs to be made. But Americans need to start getting 2 days off. And I know, here's another liberal asking for paid days off. I know, I get it. But we need to have 2 days off in this country. We need to have 48 hours off a fucking year. And that needs to be 1 day where you have unbiased reporting on each presidential fucking candidate. And then the next day is voting. We need to have a day off for voting to get this shit done, because we Democrats are getting fucking murdered right now by the turnout of Republicans. This hasn't happened.
And, you know, I'll take it a step further. In Great Britain, or in England, the UK, they have a cap. You're only allowed to spend so much money when you're running for an office. I think that's a great idea. The amount of money that campaigns need to win is, I mean, it's amazing, right? When you look at how much money Obama spent in his 2 terms to be elected, I mean, how much good can seriously have been done with all that money?
And, their cap on time limit is 6 weeks, right?
And they have a cap on time limit. And to me, that just, it makes a big difference, because you're you know, we've been campaigning. I mean, Hillary Clinton has been, you know, running for president for, I don't know, 2 years pretty much, since she dropped out of Secretary of State.
Right.
I knew the reason she did that was she
couldn't have any more scandals between then and running for president.
Yeah. So she was setting her sights on the presidency, you know, and just hoping for a smooth transition. That was, you know, 2 years ago. Right. So they've been campaigning, you know, it's too much. People get flooded with, you know, especially, I mean, I can't imagine living in Iowa, you know, where those guys for the first 6 months are there every day. You're getting nailed with freaking political commercials, probably every other ad. It's just the way that we do elections. It needs to change. But, you know, part of it is because our voter base is just so, you know, uninterested or uneducated in the process too. And, you know, I hate to say it, but that's a huge part of this whole problem.
Right. And so 2 things. Number one, though, if we had the same rules in place that they have in Britain, Trump would probably be president right now. Think about it. Bernie was nothing when he first came on. His approval rating was through the floor. It would have definitely ended up being, because Trump has taken center stage and has maintained it. And I remember Bill Maher saying end of last year sometime, that he's glad actually now that our campaign takes forever, because eventually Trump's going to slip. Unfortunately, that has not happened, but he does make a point that if we started, because everything kind of kicked off in July, if campaigning started in July and was supposed to wrap up by end of September, Donald Trump would be our president if those 2 caps are placed on there, because he's also spent the least amount of money. He's only spent, like, I forget the figure. I think it's like $100 million.
Why does he doesn't have to spend money? The fucking news companies.
Still,
no,
I get your point, but still, if we were to have put those 2 fucking caps on there, Trump would have.
You know,
Trump would have taken it already.
and I'm not saying we need to just accept their policies, but again, I think the big difference when you look at them like that is the people over there. It's a much different, much more people vote over there.
Right.
Much more people. I hate to
Insult
disparage our
intelligence.
country,
Yep.
but it's like when you hear the average person from England speak and you hear the average American speak, you're like, what the fuck? Where did we go wrong?
Accents, dude.
It's not just accents.
Accents do play a part.
It's not just accents. People can sound stupid with an accent.
I'm telling you, if you take an average American and have him say the same sentence as Michael Caine, it's going to sound better from Michael Caine. It's just the way it is.
Oh,
this
it
is
might sound better, but I'm talking about the context of what they listen to or what they say. It's these people they have a better understanding of what's going on around them, and if that were the case with Americans, Trump would not be the president,
Well, you're touching on a different point now, which is the Electoral College, which I have always been against. Ever since in high school when I learned what it was, I've always been against the Electoral College. But the GOP could really use super delegates right now. But but the thing is that with the Electoral College. It was put in place because when it's been in since newspaper was the only form of communication as it pertained to news. Now, being out of the loop when it comes to political conversation, what's going on politically in our country, it's a choice. It's definitely a choice. If you don't want to be informed, you have more than enough capability to get it done. And now, thanks to social media and the internet and all that stuff, you don't even have to watch the fucking news anymore. You can get your news delivered to you through any medium you want. But at the same time, I'm kind of questioning it a bit because I've always been against Electoral College, and I know everybody's expecting that format to fuck Bernie over in the primaries, but at the same time, it might also keep Trump out of the fucking office.
We've talked about it before, and Trump looks like he's going to be the nominee. I mean, unless the GOP, and their convention decides to go batshit, right? And
what signal will that send?
Exactly, right? That to me is almost worse. You're saying all the people elected this guy is fucked up as it is. Put him in the ring. If they choose somebody else, then you're basically stepping on all those people's votes. So he's going to be the nominee, but his chance to win the presidency is very small, in my uneducated opinion, right? But when you go back and at Romney's last loss, and they said, they did an autopsy on the party,
right? And
they said, well, we fucked up with the Hispanics. If we would have had as many Hispanics vote for us as did for George Bush, Romney would have won. So out of that, when they think, where did we fuck up? How did we lose this election? Oh, we didn't do enough to court the Hispanic vote. Then you have Donald Trump coming and saying all Mexicans are rapists and criminals. You obviously hinder your chances.
He did a worse job with Hispanics than Romney did. Far worse job.
Right, far worse. Right. So that's a huge voting block. And that was enough to sway the last presidential election. I imagine it's going to be even more now in support of the Democrats, regardless of the nominee, is that anti-Trump a vote. So I don't think he's gonna be the president. The Electoral College is rigged, right? It's not correct.
Well,
but it does work for us. I will say. The way that it's set up, I mean, Democrats only have to win a couple swing states, and we're in. For the Republicans, they have to win a lot more. I mean, when you look at the map that's red and blue of the two parties,
right?
It's mostly red. The country, right? It's mostly red, and then on the coasts you got some blue. The Carolinas or North Carolina. Some other kind of random spots. The good thing is the population in those states are so big.
Right.
But the map is pretty much mostly red.
Yeah, and it's always scary when you don't want a Republican and you see the map on election night. It's definitely always scary, but again, I mean, the whole thing is shocking. And speaking of shocking, did you see Obama's speech about why these guys are so shocked that all this? It was perfect. I said that when Obama's done with his term, he needs to hit the road to do stand-up comedy because he's a great fucking speaker and he's hilarious. And I would love to see. I wish this was Obama's first term because if taking Bernie out of the equation and Hillary, I really would love to see Obama versus Trump. I would love to see that fucking showdown because I think Obama would do a better job than Bernie or Hillary in really making him look stupid, because Bernie's kind of, his thing is that he's a bit bigger than that. He's going to argue about the issues and stuff like that, and he'll call Trump out on things, but he doesn't have I don't even know how to put it. Just the way Obama delivers shit, the way he delivers insult. Like, you're the last person that's going to be tough on China. Like, when he said that to Mitt Romney, I was like, fuck yes, dude, get him. And Bill Maher said this, but I agree with it too, is, you know, these guys are comparing dick sizes and Obama's like, I call mine POTUS. Like, you don't want to fucking compare dick sizes with him or Ben Carson for some reason. But yeah, the whole thing is just, I just don't know what the fuck is. I mean, I know what's going on. I'm kind of in disbelief of how this country is just being shredded right now with this fucking hatred. I didn't think this many fucking people existed like that.
Yeah, I mean, we need help, and we're trying, we're getting our word out. We need more people, I guess, to just have a conversation with somebody who's a Trump supporter and see where their mind's at, because this is the most important election in my lifetime for sure. And I hope it's Bernie versus Trump. I think, do a good job putting the 1% against the 99%. And, I think it would do a good job showcasing the problems with the country. I think Bernie versus Trump would be a little bit more of a wake up call. This is what you can have, and this is what you already have, basically. So we'll see, but we're a minute over, so we got to save it for next week.
Yeah. All right. And let me see. We have a few states coming up tomorrow, so that should be interesting. And we'll see what other shit goes down. And I'm gonna say it right now because I said on the page just a prediction that I want to get on the air. Before this is done, I'm predicting that somebody will die at a Trump rally. It will happen. Somebody's gonna get killed, and then I'm really eager to see how what twist and turn this whole fucking political climate takes after that. So, man, I shouldn't have said that. That just left everything on a sour note. That was a bad idea. It was something I had written in my notes. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta get this on the fucking air, and I said it at the worst possible time.
We'll end with somebody's gonna die.
I think it's sad but true. But yeah, all right, sounds good. Hopefully, we will go find this bastard that was all just a big man when it came to arguing, and then, oh yeah, come on the show. Yeah, great. Showtime. Where the fuck is this guy? So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But for everything, follow us on Twitter at AOR_podcast, the Age of Reason podcast page on Facebook. And for everything else, AORpodcast.com. It's going to be a good week. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right. Peace.